Michigan coaching search. We mentioned last night, Kalen DeBoer's name will come up. Kalen DeBoer, Alabama's head coach. His name was all over the Penn State search, even though I kept telling you guys it was never serious. It was never happening. I would say right now, the people at Alabama do not believe that Kalen DeBoer is going anywhere. We are getting some indications that perhaps he'd be open to talking to Michigan. I don't think, and we talked about this last night, that Kalen DeBoer would do anything that would resemble the Lane Kiffin exit from Ole Miss. So if you're Michigan, Ari, would you be okay stretching this thing out to wait and see if Kalen DeBoer loses to Oklahoma in game 1 of the playoff? And if he didn't, would you be willing to wait until after he played Indiana?
If Alabama wins at Oklahoma, the timing gets dicey. But let me throw something back at you.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the rampant speculation or maybe the discussion point that we alluded to at the beginning of the show, Andy, is who knew what when.
Mm-hmm.
And there might be some extra culpability in Michigan's athletic department that might impact the athletic director.
Is Ward Manuel making the hire is a question that we can't really answer right now.
And if Ward Manuel is not making the hire, then all of a sudden the timeline of this hire goes past the college football game in 8 days or 9 days.
I would think so, yeah.
Now, of course, I think that there is probably a rough deadline of when you would want that to be in place, which is the beginning of the portal season, right? And that's going to be a wild week, and everybody's rosters are going to be formed in that week. Michigan has to have somebody in charge there getting people to come play.
Yes.
But I do think that it's within the realm of possibility that a DeBoer move could, in theory, happen if the hire is made after the first round of the CFP and Alabama does not advance.
Well, and his main personnel guy is Courtney Morgan. And where did Courtney Morgan have some of his greatest hits as a personnel guy?
Michigan.
Yeah.
Although I don't know how much your right-hand man's affiliation has to do with.
I think in this environment, it's one of the most important. If it's the personnel guy, I mean, Courtney Morgan's the one who unearthed Mason Graham for Michigan. Now, Mason Graham was not a huge secret, but he was under recruited.
Would you move to Phoenix for me?
Would I move to Phoenix for you? How much money is involved? Can we win a podcasting championship?
20% more than you're currently making. And that's what. Right?
And also, yeah, right. Because that is a legitimate question that I think. Because here's the sales pitch. If you're Michigan, you made the playoff at Alabama, and the fans are still mad at you. I can tell you right now, the Alabama administration is not mad at Kalen DeBoer. They love Kalen DeBoer. They don't want him to go anywhere. They're very happy with him. And I think most of the rational part of Alabama's fan base is very happy with him. So you have to ask the question, what's the better job? And I think a lot of people would say Alabama's the better job.
Here's another question for you, just because we got to think about it in negative terms. But who's Kalen DeBoer's agent?
Jimmy Sexton.
And is he good
CAA,
at his job?
Yeah, he's very good at his job.
If you're Alabama coach and you don't want to exist in pressure where people are mad at you for making the playoff, what's a good way to ease some of that tension?
Be wanted by somebody else, but then say, oh no, I love it here at Alabama.
And then as a result of that, you might also sign a document that locks up your coaching future with a larger buyout that makes it more difficult for the pressure that you're feeling to result in you losing your job. Could that be happening?
Ari, I think you have a future in the agent business.
I don't, but we've been around this enough where it's like if I were Kalen DeBoer and I didn't want to leave Alabama, I'd be really freaking interested in Michigan right now. Mm-hmm. Alabama cannot afford to lose you. They don't want to lose you. If you say, hey, I'm taking this job unless I get an extension and you increase my buyout to X so I don't have to feel like I'm going to lose my job even during semi-successful seasons, that might be a pretty good professional play. And by the way, the person who's in charge of making these decisions and making sure that their client is making a lot of money and being taken care of is very good at this. So,
Agreed.
I don't know. That's maybe something that we should think about.
Yes. And that may be a reason why the name continues to percolate as these searches continue, because it percolated throughout the Penn State search, even though lots of people kept saying, no, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. I want to be on the On3 rocket ship. If I had an agent, I would try to get it signed a long-term deal right now. I'd love to have a long-term deal.
Absolutely. I thought I was your agent.
Yeah, you kind of are. No, I tried to hire an agent at dinner on Friday, and we're still trying to wait to see if that agent comes through for me. I was being serious. I don't know if he is going to be serious, but my phone is, you got my number. You text me all the time. Hit me up. You know who you are.
Exactly. All right. So that's DeBoer. That's where that stands. And I think we can be pretty clear. We're not going to have a Lane Kiffin situation here. Probably you've got to wait for Alabama to be knocked out of the playoff for that to happen.
I also think they're going to win.
There's that.
I think there's that. I put like Oklahoma in my projected bracket because I had to do it 5 minutes after the reveal, and I'm kind of stuck with it. But like,
you've talked yourself into it. It was my Josh Cuevas speech yesterday.
I last night I took my daughter over to a neighbor's house to watch. They had like a Grinch watching party. We all got into pajamas and they had this theater room and we watched the Grinch. And I was talking about Alabama with the dad who owns the home, and he's a big Bama fan. And I was like, yeah, I can be talked into this. Also, the spread of the game is 1.5. So like your guess is like it's still like
essentially a pick
proposition. Yeah. So if they get healthy and they play, I mean, it's not like we haven't seen Alabama beat ranked teams on the road this year. So
yep.
I don't know.
Let's talk about some other potential candidates. Kenny Dillingham is one that I was actually surprised did not come up more often in the Auburn search, the Florida search, the Penn State search. I do think if LSU had not gotten Lane Kiffin, that Kenny Dillingham would have been a pretty serious target of LSU. This is one I would definitely look at for Michigan. Young, took over a dumpster fire at Arizona State, great developer of quarterbacks. Like, he really, Michigan's in a tough spot right now. But from a football standpoint, roster standpoint, schematic standpoint, it is not nearly in as tough of a spot as Arizona State was when Herm Edwards got fired. Like, the job here would be much easier. And you hand Kenny Dillingham the keys to developing Bryce Underwood. I would be very excited to see what that looked like.
Me too. Andy, in my Texas Tech column that I wrote on Saturday off of the game, I wrote this sentence in the column. You edited it, so you read it, and you didn't change it. That at the moment, you could make the case that the Big 12 has more in common with the G5 conference than a Power 2 conference, which is SEC. I don't know if you find that to be insulting or if that's just a fact, but I posted this column on the Texas Tech message board, and they did not like that.
I'm sure they didn't. Texas Tech doesn't, but Texas Tech is the one that resembles a Power 2, not just a Power 2 conference team, a really good Power 2 conference team.
That's what I was hoping they would take away from the article. That's not what they took away from the article. But I bring that up to say that I'm wondering if the Big 12, though they have very proud, historic, and successful programs, are going to have a harder time holding on to their coaches now than ever before.
Yes, I would agree with that. I mean, the fact that Sam Levitt is leaving, and Pete Nakos reported that a while ago, and Levitt's brother, who's also a station, was like, we're that's not right. Yeah, well, it's right. You're leaving. You would have shown up at the banquet the other night if you weren't. But the fact that you're losing that amazing quarterback, like, Michigan doesn't lose that kind of quarterback.
Yeah.
In this era, not in any era. So,
although I did see that Bryce Underwood removed Ann Arbor from his location on his Instagram, and that went kind of viral on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Well, I am curious to see.
It means something, or it could mean nothing. I don't know, but that also is a part of the speculation of this whole Michigan situation. Are they going to do with the
and again, we don't see these contracts with the players. I would guess that the Michigan contract with Underwood has some teeth that would keep him there. That's that would be a guess. It'd be an educated guess, but not a firm guess. So,
and also when it comes to language and NIL deals and NIL contracts based on the effectiveness or the competence of the agent, those are more variant in nature than they are in coaching.
Well,
right?
and it's a good point actually, because Bryce Underwood had a lot of leverage when he made the deal with Michigan. So it may be that maybe it's not that restrictive.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't really know that this is we can get Pete Nakos on. I don't know. Like, I know who the good college football agents are for like the coaches and stuff. And I know that like, as we proceed more into the future of NIL, the NIL agents are becoming better and better. And it might become
so Bryce Underwood is not repped by his buddy's uncle. Like,
okay. So he has a real rep.
Very professional representation. They represent NFL players. It's not.
Then I'm assuming then he probably used that leverage because Michigan was dying to have him to have as more favorable of a buyout or more favorable language that would allow him to leave in maybe a circumstance that other people that weren't represented by such good people would have, right? Like, my assumption would be that it wouldn't be impossible for him to go.
It probably wouldn't. You're probably right about that. But like, so Brandon Greer is his agent. He is a NFL and NBA certified. So represents professional athletes all the time. So that is not the case with all NIL agents, but in this case, yes. So you've got that. But that's one of those, I would imagine, if news breaks that Kenny Dillingham got hired at Michigan, that's probably something Bryce Underwood would get excited about, given who Kenny Dillingham has coached. So that would be one. I want to hit another one. Download the Gametime app right now if you want to attend a college football playoff game, and there are some bangers next week. You got Alabama, Oklahoma in Norman. You've got Miami, Texas A&M in College Station. You want to go to that Alabama, Oklahoma game, you can get some good tickets at the Prairie at the Palace on the Prairie to watch Alabama and Coach Kalen DeBoer, who we are about to talk about, playing against Oklahoma in a first-round playoff game. They have tickets for it all. Gametime. Download the app. Use the code STAPLES for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, of course. You can also get tickets to the Miami, Texas A&M game at Kyle Field. It is a very, very hot ticket. It is four figures if you want really, really good seats. It is high 400s to just get into the building. Also, you could go to Eugene, watch JMU Oregon. You go to Oxford, watch Tulane Ole Miss. You could get tickets for the bowl games. Like if you're a Texas Tech fan, you want to go to get Orange Bowl tickets, go to Gametime right now and get them. Use the code STAPLES for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right. That the Michigan fans have talked about. We talked about this last night, and I actually got a little more information about this last night after our live show. So Jesse Mentor, current Los Angeles Chargers defensive coordinator, was the DC under Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, and then followed Harbaugh to LA. So Mentor has a show cause, and I will repeat again, it is not about the Connor Stallion stuff. It is about sending some text messages to a recruit about an unofficial visit when he wasn't supposed to be doing that during the wrong date range. And he got a 1-year show cause for that. And the 1-year show cause says that the school cannot employ him in any athletically related function. The show cause is not over yet. I know there's some information on the message boards that say it ends December 15th. It does not. The news broke about him making the deal with the NCAA, because they did a negotiated resolution, that he made the deal on April 28th. I talked to someone who was involved, and they said that it's actually even later than that, because it didn't go into effect until closer to Michigan's hearing with the Committee on Infractions. So your food and beverage manager idea, he'd have to be the food and beverage manager for a while. And I think with Jesse Mentor, because he's one of the few really hot NFL coordinators this year, I think there's a really good chance he gets an NFL head coaching job. And so probably not headed back to college anytime soon.
Well, we didn't talk about this on the live show, but I want to ask you this, Andy. Does Michigan want to separate itself from that world? And I think it's a very interesting dynamic, because if you talk to people who root for Michigan, who are affiliated with Michigan, They look at the sign stealing scandal as a nothing burger that was blown out of proportion and that people freaked out about. But in the light of what is going on with Sherrone Moore right now, Andy, and the consistent scandal that has been surrounding the program, though different in scale and importance, but still consistent. Do you want to go back to that well if you're Michigan and bring somebody in who was involved in any sort of scandal previously? Or do you want to go find a coach that's going to run a program that doesn't get in trouble for a while? Like, do you think that dipping back into the Harbaugh tree, and you had to mute yourself, so remember that? But like like, what is your take on should there be separation between that and anybody from the Harbaugh era?
Yeah, I think probably that you separate from the Harbaugh tree at this point.
Like, you move on
because,
from the page.
Well, and for other reasons too. Like, you're trying to recreate that culture, but without Jim Harbaugh, I don't know if you actually can do that. So it's sort of like, USC kept trying to capture the magic of Pete Carroll after Pete Carroll left by hiring Lane Kiffin, by hiring Steve Sarkisian. You don't have to do that. You can find a coach who can build the culture themselves and still win a lot of games. It doesn't have to be exactly like that. So I'd say maybe do have a clean break from that tree and just try to find somebody who can kind of make their own name there. And I think there's going to be a lot of candidates who can do that. Jedd Fisch is another one. Jedd Fisch finishes his season at Washington on Saturday, in the Bucked Up LA Bowl hosted by Gronk. You know what Bucked Up is?
Is that a brand, or is that like...
It is a brand. It is a brand. It's a supplement company. It's like pre-workout and creatine. So
I would have called it Bricked Up, but whatever. It's that
they have a deer on the logo. So
they do. Okay, got it. I don't know what you would use for a Bricked Up, but that
a brick.
He has. So let me, because we're talking in circles about this a little bit. Let's try to focus it, and I'm just going to ask. He's the betting favorite right now, right?
It's a good question. He's the easiest to acquire. Now, there is some Harbaugh DNA there because he did work for Jim Harbaugh as Michigan's offensive coordinator at one point.
But that's nowhere near the same thing as Minter, though.
No, because he's also worked for Bill Belichick. He's worked for McVay with the Rams. He's been all over the place. And I would argue that he's made his name as a head coach kind of on his own already based on what he did at Arizona to get the Washington job.
Yeah. And I offended some Washington people. Did you see that on Twitter? Oh, you did.
I did see that, and it's my fault for not pushing back on that when you said they're a top 30 program. I would argue they're a top 20 program, especially now that they're in the Big Ten.
Listen, Andy, I was just trying to give a round number. I didn't do the math on the back of a receipt before I said that. I don't know. It would be interesting to see how many jobs you could name. I bet you it would be 25 to 30 is probably a rational place. And I'm not talking measuring of recent success, but it's not a destination job, is it?
You can make it one.
Right person? It could be. Yeah. I mean,
you can absolutely make it one. Is it? Well, here's the question: is Indiana a destination job? It is if Curt Cignetti wants it to be.
Yeah.
I think any job in the Big Ten or the SEC right now can be a destination job if you want it to be.
I still think that there's a little extra oomph with some of the legacy blue blood brands.
I would agree. I'm not saying look, that doesn't mean I said top 20. Michigan is way ahead of that.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't know.
There's no question.
Tired of moving every other year.
He does that a lot, but
maybe you get good at moving. I don't know. But
the thing
I feel like if he actually wants to set. Go ahead. Sorry.
Good with quarterbacks. What he did at Arizona was not an accident, was not fluky. He did it with one really incredible recruiting class that they found and developed. And, he recruited kind of above the weight class, which you put that at Michigan with everything they do now, because Michigan plays ball now. They're not being all holier than thou anymore. You put that with what they can do at Michigan, and you can win titles.
Yeah. There also is a difference between making a place a destination job and going to a place that is already one. Right?
Yeah. No, you're right.
It's I hate Curt Cignetti messed up everything.
It's true.
It's not a rational talking point. It's just.
Curt Cignetti, I think we're going to have to start calling him the exception that proves the rule.
It's like, yeah, I mean, you could just say that about anything. Curt Cignetti is the moral of a lot of stories. If you,
but I would argue there's so much money in the Big Ten and the SEC now that any job, if you really liked it and you did a good job at it, you wouldn't have to leave because they could afford to keep you. But I agree with you. If you're the Washington coach and Michigan comes calling, you have to listen.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
Can we get into a couple more that our
yeah, sure.
viewers and listeners have thrown at us? This one's from Justin. Dear Andy and Ari, could PJ Fleck be hired back into the state of Michigan? Remember, he coached at Western Michigan before he was at Minnesota. I do think he has the best job in America now that Mark Stoops doesn't, though after hearing his press conference from losing to Ohio State, what if he is given resources to build a roster equivalent to Ohio State? Ari, his style, which is play incredible defense and run the ball down your throat, would play very well in Ann Arbor.
Yeah. Would you say that if you zoomed out on his entire career at Minnesota, that he has exceeded expectations?
Yes, and it is from what Justin said. We talked about we don't think Kentucky's the best job in America anymore because they'll fire you like they fired Mark Stoops. Minnesota might be, because they can pay like any big time program because they've got Big Ten money, and they don't expect you to win the Big Ten. So Minnesota might be the answer. We've been looking for an answer for a new best job in America. PJ Fleck may have it, but I think if Michigan called, PJ Fleck would certainly answer the phone.
Yeah, I mean, similar logos, right?
Well, I think all the and we've had this discussion about PJ before, and we've had PJ on the show, like the gimmicky stuff, the row the boat, all that stuff, the slogans, like that is PJ. He's not faking that. That's who he is. I'm not sure how that plays at Michigan. I do think his preferred style of play on the field absolutely plays at Michigan.
I think rowing the boat plays well if you're winning. Everything plays well if you're winning.
Right.
Nobody wants to hear about rowing the boat if you're 7-5 at Michigan.
I would agree on that. So yeah. That's an interesting suggestion. And Jason gives us another suggestion. Guy who was on the show last week. Why not give the ACC champion coach a call? Manny Diaz. I don't know if he shaved the playoff beard yet because they didn't make the playoff, but
we can keep that thing going for another year and they can look like Castaway at this point next year.
That's true. The last coach that got hired away from Duke is kicking ass right now in College Station. That would be Mike Elko. Manny, can we argue that Manny and Mike Elko pretty similar jobs at Duke? Now, Mike Elko obviously helped set Manny up for success there, but I would argue that their 2-year tenures at Duke are fairly similar.
Yes, but there's more to Manny Diaz's resume than that.
Yes, because he was the head coach at Miami.
Yeah. Yep. And I don't know, how long does that stay with you?
I don't know. I mean, Mario made the playoff this year, so I think now it's looking like Mario has surpassed what Manny did there. It did not look like that for a while. People are going, oh, maybe we gave Manny a raw deal. So
yeah.
Also, coaches learn, evolve. Manny Diaz spent 2 years as the DC at Penn State, so understands the Big Ten from that perspective. Understands the top of the Big Ten from that perspective. I do think I would maybe make a call and have a chat and hear what the vision would be.
Also, if you're Manny Diaz and you like what you're returning and you're an ACC champion and you think you can have another good year next year, there could be another job that he'd be very interested in a year opening. Do you know what job that
his alma mater. Yeah. It's very interesting because, Manny Diaz, son of the former mayor of Miami, and so everybody and he was the head coach at Miami, but he's a Florida State grad. So, yeah, that is an interesting point because you're right. If Florida State were to open and he had another really good year at Duke, I could see him coming home at that point.
The Florida guy. Yeah.
Florida man.
The Florida
never
man.
really leaves you.
Yeah. And how much of a troll would that be? You want to talk about being an alma mater guy, going and being awesome at Florida State? I know we're 10.
Well, if he could go be awesome at Florida State and then beat the team that fired him in an annual rivalry, I think that would be a pretty big deal for him.
He'd be a hero in his own place. So,
or he could just keep winning. He got he won an ACC championship at Duke. Do you know the other coach who did that?
Who?
One Stephen Orr Spurrier.
That's wild.
He turned out pretty good. All right.
Yeah,
that is the latest
championship at Duke is interesting because it's also the strangest conference champion I've ever seen.
It is very strange. That is the latest on the Michigan coaching search.